Hey everyone, Lisa Salvatore here to talk to you about the lunar eclipse full moon that takes place on November 8th. The lunar eclipse is a supercharged full moon, and this is actually a total lunar eclipse. This is a big deal for us both collectively and personally. And we will actually not have another lunar eclipse until March of 2025. And that one will be a partial lunar eclipse. This is a total lunar eclipse. So a total lunar eclipse, like I said, is a supercharged full moon. Full moons are energies of opposition. It's when the sun is in opposition, exact opposition to the moon. And this highlights and emphasizes the polarities in our lives. The sun is our expression, it's our individuality, while the moon is our internal world, it's our emotions, it's also our family, it's also the public. And so personally speaking, a lot of relationship dynamics could feel very, very highlighted under this eclipse full moon energy. Emotional attachments. We're dealing with Taurus, which is where the north node is, and Scorpio, which is where the south node is. And there's something here about the increase of our security systems, our safety, and then a decrease of any toxicity or unhealthy attachments in our lives. And so because this is a full moon that is already going to be bringing a lot up to the surface, is highly emotional and illuminating, this is a time of culmination, this is a time of release. Because it is a total lunar eclipse, it's going to be that much more apparent, that much more evident what needs to shift, what needs to change. That's only on the personal level. We have a lot more to unpack here. Now, this total lunar eclipse takes place on November 8th. Around 6 a.m. Eastern Time. And November 8th, as we know, is a very important day here in the US. It's the midterm elections. So we can expect to hear a lot of different things going on at this time. Let's not forget that Mars is retrograde. And there are actually a lot of significant figures that have strong Gemini in their birth charts. Not going to mention any names, but you get the gist. Eclipses are pivotal if they impact your personal chart in a significant way. Otherwise, most people will feel the energy of the eclipses. They'll feel the power and the magnitude, and of course, dependent upon how energetically sensitive you are, that's going to either be enhanced or not so obvious. But because Mars is in Gemini, okay, the Gemini placements are feeling this energy. These eclipses are bringing a lot up, and it's on November 8th. So you can fill in those blanks however which way. But again, we're dealing with a very big full moon energy. Now, technically speaking and astronomically speaking, when we have a total lunar eclipse, the moon essentially moves into the shadow of the Earth, into the Earth's shadow. And the eclipse will happen when the sun, the moon, and the Earth are almost exactly perfectly aligned or pretty close to being exactly in alignment. So Earth basically blocks out direct sunlight from reaching the moon. And this is why when we have a total lunar eclipse, you'll often see a reddish ring around it or a reddish hue. That comes from this phenomenon. Also important to mention that a lunar eclipse can only occur right around the nodes of the moon. And this total lunar eclipse full moon happens at 16 degrees of Taurus. And the north node, the nodal axis is at 13 degrees of Taurus, the north node, and 13 is Scorpio, the south node. So this full moons are all about release. It's culmination, it's release, it's review, it's renewal, it's all of that. But the north node is all about increase and the future. It's the collective destiny. It's also the personal destiny. So there's a really strong energy here on a release of what isn't working to bring you towards your true north, your best path, your highest calling. Again, this is on the personal level, of course, but then more importantly, with this particular eclipse, it's on the collective level. Now, the areas, the path of the eclipse, wherever it is over in the world, is essentially where we'll see them or hear the most news coming out of. Again, this is the last lunar eclipse for 3 years. We'll have another partial lunar eclipse in 2025. Again, I want to emphasize this is a total lunar eclipse. We're going to pull up the chart in a moment. This full moon is in almost an exact alignment with Uranus. Remember, Uranus has been in Taurus, traveling very close to the north node. Again, if you have strong fixed points or placements, strong planets in the fixed energies, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, especially between 16 and 21 degrees of any of those signs, you're going to want to check your chart because you will definitely be feeling the emotional impact of these eclipses. And in some cases, physical, there could be literal movement happening around you if you are a fixed energy. Now, there is a lot of energy that is coming up with this particular eclipse. It can feel very unnerving, very anxiety producing, very irritable, like there's a strong nervous tension present. It's like everybody's on edge and everybody's on guard. Now remember, because we're dealing with the north node, we're dealing with the future destiny of the collective, okay? We're dealing with Uranus, which is radical change and freedom and truth, also clarity. We're dealing with the North Node, which is the future. And we're dealing with Taurus, which is stability. So there's a lot of good here that can come of this, but it is not going to be without a shakeup. Because Uranus is also all about shakeups. It's about shock. It's about eccentricity and unexpected change. It's about liberation. It's about freedom. And again, most importantly, it's about truth and clarity. Scorpio, which is the opposite side and attached to the South Node, along with the Sun in Scorpio, is all about releasing any toxicity, anything that is not serving us, to take us to the safe harbor of Taurus. Taurus and Scorpio are actually similar energies. They just deal with things differently. And so it could become very obvious the ways in which the things that are not necessarily the most constructive for us have been ruling our lives. Again, that's collective and that's personal. Taurus and Scorpio also rule over the financial axis in astrology. So again, lots about money coming up to the forefront, new systems being implemented. Now let's not forget about the weather. Uranus in Taurus, it's extremely close to the North Node. This is a full moon, brings everything up, can literally be earthquakes. Literally, could also be emotional earthquakes, could be financial earthquakes, doesn't have to be literal, but there might be an increase in the seismic activity. Would not be surprising under these energies. And remember, eclipses are not just like one day. This is an energy that you feel weeks, if not months, out on either side of it, okay? And we did just have a partial solar eclipse, October 25th. So we're still feeling the reverberations of that energy. That was a South Node eclipse. Remember, the South Node and Scorpio ask us right now to release, to decrease that which is not working for us. And Uranus here in the mix is guiding us both personally and collectively. It's guiding us toward and away from what we have to break free from. What patterns are holding us back, behaviors, relationships, to take us to the new. Because remember, at the end of this all, Uranus is about liberation, and it's about cutting through the illusion to get to the truth, to get the clarity, to gain the deeper insight. Remember, Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury. Where Mercury rules our lower mind, Uranus rules the higher mind, the intuitive mind, the God mind even. So this is where we get the flash and we just know something. We know things. That's how Uranus operates. It's not slow. Now, to our favor right now, Uranus is actually still retrograde. So he may go a little easier on us than he normally would. And it will feel even more easier if you've been doing your soul work, if you've really been going inward to reflect and taking this time to recognize, what you would like to shift, what isn't working for you, the healthy and unhealthy behaviors that you have, that we all have. And it's really important to just remember to try to release that which is toxic to you, for you, on your own, so that Uranus doesn't have to do it for you. And sometimes in a way that appears to be unfavorable in the moments. But I will always say with Uranus, it leaves you better than you're found, even when you don't recognize that at first. Again, Uranus is radical change and sudden reroutes and turnarounds of energy. It's like lightning in a bottle. You can't contain it. Again, just be mindful that everybody is highly emotionally reactive at this time. Mars has gestation retrograde October the 30th, so people are definitely feeling the frustration of that. The slowing down energy, the potential for our words to get very heated quite quickly as Mars is in Gemini, retrograde in Gemini, the sign of communication, information, verbally, online, doesn't matter. So that frustration is present. We are in between eclipses with the total lunar eclipse full moon coming up. Again, just a highly emotional time, highly reactive. The more we can all remember this and hold space for each other to not be perfect and to have our moments and to have our meltdowns, but also to be safe about that and to still be kind, we have to allow the space for that, because that is just how the energy is right now. It's extremely tense and stressed. And the more that we can remember to pull back in the moments when we're about to react and to respond versus react, it will really go a long way. Be an observer, not an absorber. We are all extremely sensitized right now to everything. Just take care of yourself. Mind your thoughts, mind your words, mind your feelings. It will really go a long way right now, and yes, for the remainder of this year. Okay, let's get to the chart. Here we have the chart for the total lunar eclipse, November 8th, 2022, 6:02 a.m. Eastern Time. You can obviously change that for wherever you are in the world, adjust the time accordingly. And we see right here we've got the sun at 16 degrees of Taurus, 16 degrees of Scorpio, in an exact opposition to the moon over here at 16 degrees of Taurus. And we see Uranus right here at 16 degrees and 56 minutes of Taurus. So it's quite close, almost an exact alignment to this full moon. As I say that, I can literally feel the energy of Uranus. It's poof, just like that surge of power in one way or the other, right? Now the moon again is our emotion. The moon is also the people. The moon is the media. So again, there's going to be this surge. It's already happening. And again, potential sudden turnarounds and reroutes. So hold on to your hats. Again, we've got the north node here at 13 degrees, which is, it shows that this full moon is very much attached to the future, to whatever occurs around these times is extremely significant for what is going to be the new earth, the new world that we live under, that we live in. Now, like I mentioned, Uranus and Mercury rules over the lower mind, the mundane mind, the most basic, our most basic communicative functions. It's the way that we speak, it's the way that we think, it's the way that we process information. And Uranus is just a higher octave of Mercury. Uranus rules the higher mind. Now, when Uranus and Mercury are working nicely together, it's really beneficial for amazing intuitive insights and communications just coming in out of nowhere and giving us, again, really good insight. But in this particular case, we're dealing with an opposition, okay? Mercury's opposing. Mercury's right here at 15 degrees and 52 minutes of Scorpio, in opposition to Uranus here at 16 of Taurus. So they're opposing each other right now. Again, they want to get to the same results, but it's probably not going to happen without tension, without friction, without conflict, or without shocking surprises. Again, we're dealing with Uranus. I will issue the caution again to pay very close attention to all the information you are absorbing, everything you're listening to, what you are being fed, and also what you are feeding to others. Because there is potential for all to not be as it seems right now. And actually, that will be the case. Now, let's not forget that Saturn over here at 18 degrees of Aquarius is still very much squaring the nodal axis. It's a little bit wider now, but it's squaring the nodal axis. It's also squaring Uranus still, and it's now squaring Mercury and the Sun and Venus, which are, Sun and Venus, by the way, are conjunct each other in Scorpio. And in a lot of ways, when the Sun and Venus are like this, it's nice because it can make us feel more tender and more tuned in to others' needs, wants, desires, and like we really want to get to the bottom of all of the emotion. But let's not forget that Saturn is also squaring that Sun-Venus conjunction, the Sun and Venus. So the intention may very well be there, but the actuality of the resolution is more than likely not going to happen. Remember, we're dealing with a lot of fixed energy here. We've got, look at this, we've got the South Node, we've got Mercury, we've got the Sun and Venus all in Scorpio, opposing Uranus, the Moon, the North Node, all in Taurus, fixed energy. We've got Saturn down here in Aquarius, fixed. And then we have Mars, the action planet, retrograde. So he's not exactly in his best position in Gemini. And Mars in Gemini is making an inconjunct aspect, or the quincunx, to Venus. So again, this all goes to say there's a desire to want to fix things, especially when it comes to our relationships. There's a desire to want to heal. But Saturn's here, like, just kind of glaring down on everybody and all these planets and saying, no, I'm not sure I'm going to let you do that right now. Not going to happen. So there's still this element of restriction that's being felt and frustration. So it's really important to remember that what is not built on a strong foundation to begin with, that is what will likely be to collapse, okay? That will be likely what is to crumble under this energy, because whenever Uranus is involved like this, Uranus will not take down a perfectly standing, well-functioning structure in any capacity. That's not usually how Uranus operates. Uranus is more strongly felt when it takes down a faulty structure, something that wasn't sturdy to begin with. That's when the earthquake can occur and cause serious destruction. I'm speaking metaphorically right now. And again, because we're dealing with Venus here, a lot of it has to do with love. A lot of it has to do with emotion, with heart. So again, the Sun, Venus, and Mercury all in Scorpio do want to get to the bottom of things, but they're contending with Saturn. And that can mess things up a little bit here. That can thwart the efforts. Not forever, just for now. There's a vie for control with the fixed energies that's occurring. Now, Jupiter's over here conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Jupiter's now retrograde back in Pisces. And this can be really great for creative work, for spiritual work, which is basically everything, right? All of the spiritual and creative endeavors. They're also harmonizing with Pluto down here in Capricorn, now direct. So again, this brings in some clarity. This can bring in some really strong intuitive hits. Now again, remember that this applies very much so to the world stage, okay? We're still dealing with an Eris-Pluto square. Now, I also want to mention that Mars, over here retrograde in Gemini, is also conjunct a minor body here called Chaos. This right here is called Chaos at 0 degrees of Cancer. And, you know, it's an out-of-sign conjunction, but still, Chaos means chaos. And we are dealing with a lot that is going on. And again, I just want to emphasize, because of the fact that Mars is retrograde in Gemini, our words are carrying that much more weight and the potential to be weaponized, okay? And we're dealing with minor body chaos here, which is basically saying, you know, just watch a little bit more, because you don't want this to, anything that's misspoken, to lead to chaos, okay? And again, we're dealing with the Eris-Pluto square, which is all about the people standing up and protesting and allowing everybody to have their voice and to be heard. So again, there's some really strong potential here. Let's not forget the date of this total lunar eclipse. And Mars is not in the best position because it's in a square to Jupiter over here. And furthering Mars's position of maybe not being in the best place right now, Mars, by the way, who's known as the god of war, amongst many things, Mars is squaring both Jupiter and Neptune. Remember, squares are tense aspects. What might be helpful though here, in one way where Saturn might actually be helpful, is that Mars is actually applying to a trine with Saturn. So that could be helpful, but again, contentiousness, caution. So again, this is all about trying to strike a balance between these energies because they are strong. Now there's another minor body that I wanted to bring into the mix, Bacchus. It's right here at 23 degrees of Scorpio. And Bacchus is actually conjunct Venus. Now, to the Romans, Bacchus was the god of wine and vegetation and pleasure, but he also ruled over fertility, drama, and revelry. There's another side to Bacchus, which sounds kind of like the Scorpio energy. There's something very strong here when I looked at this chart to me that speaks to karma. And karma being just like you reap what you sow, right? So you do good to others, good comes back to you tenfold, however which way that occurs. And if you go out of your way to basically be a shitty person in some capacity, if you're just telling yourself that the way that you behave is okay and it's actually really not, and it's not really, warm and kind and good and loving, again, this just goes to show that there is like a karmic balance that it's very, very real. And so there's something very significant here about the heart, about good karma. Just be a good person, right? Be a good person, cultivate good karma. It's really not that difficult. And again, you don't have to react. You don't have to respond to everything and everyone that tries to drum up controversy. It's not necessary. It's not about being a doormat. It's about being wise about what you're choosing to give your attention to, where you are choosing to put your energy. It's all about balance, and full moons are all about trying to find the balance. Oh, and the more important reason why I wanted to bring Bacchus into the mix is because he's very strong about the fixed energies, which again are Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. His animal symbols are actually the bull, which is Taurus, the lion, which is Leo, the snake, which is one of the levels of Scorpio, and then also the panther and the goat, which the goat is technically Capricorn, but still, Bacchus is strong energy, fixed, controlled. So I really feel with Bacchus conjunct Venus right now and the sun in the sign of Scorpio, it's highlighting the dynamics of, again, unhealthy attachments likely in the way of our relationships, and where there are control issues, power dynamics that are imbalanced, any darker manipulations that are occurring. It wants to break us out and free from the negativity, from any negativity, but it does feel very intense. And again, we're dealing with Uranus. So this is one of those cases where if you're not acknowledging the truth of a matter, the heart of the matter, Uranus can very easily just come on in and do it for you. And so for some of us, we'd be like, yes, I want that to happen. But always be careful what you wish for, right? Because you just might get it all and then some you don't want. But remember, the ultimate goal here is to bring us forward, okay? To push us forward in truth and love and integrity and with clarity and potentially peace, even if it takes a little while to settle into that peace. So again, there is a lot going on right now, okay? And it's just really important that you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your physical body, you're making sure to get enough rest, you're not pushing forward. Remember, Mars is retrograde. It doesn't want us to keep pushing when the energy is saying, no, calm it down, slow it down, don't put yourself in hot water, be more mindful, okay? This is where we are right now. Just pull a tarot card for this lunar eclipse. All right, the Seven of Swords. If you know tarot, and I know it very well, this is probably the one of the cards that I don't ever really like to see, because it's all about manipulation. It's all about manipulation. It's all about somebody getting away with something. Again, use your imagination here. The Seven of Swords. Oof. I definitely feel like this has to do with the collective energy. My goodness, just what are we going to find out about? What are we going to hear? Who's getting away with what? Who's trying to get over on who? Oh my goodness, Seven of Swords is like sneaky, manipulative energy all around. But it's the swords, and the swords rule over the mind. So again, we need to be very mindful of what we are absorbing, what we are taking in. What are we listening to or finding it to be fact or fiction? Again, we might not have that answer. Be on your guard under these energies. Be cautiously optimistic, but be a little bit more mindful, be more on your guard. And again, watch your mouth, watch your words. Lots of, again, with Mars in retrograde in Gemini, lots of idle gossip could be very present. And you yourself, for all of us, it's important to remember this. This bears worth mentioning. If somebody confides something to you, and even if they don't tell you, hey, listen, don't say anything about that. Like say they tell you something personal, right? Why would you repeat it? There is no upside to repeating somebody else's business. It never bodes well. It never goes over well. You will always be deemed as a troublemaker, or your words are going to get weaponized, right? And now more than ever with Mars retrograde in Gemini, that is more than likely to happen. So just be mindful about what you share, what you repeat. You don't have to repeat, and especially if it has to do with other people's personal business, just don't do it. If somebody opens up to you and they trust you enough with their secrets, even if they don't say to you, don't tell anybody, don't. It just should be common decency. You can control it. If you can't, please try under this energy, because it will come back to bite you in the ass. I'm telling you. That is what this energy is all about. That is what this eclipse is all about. Bringing things up to the surface. So if you're engaging in toxic behavior and you know that, this would be the time to try to make amends with that, okay? And if you're not, then just take what I say with a grain of salt. Just be mindful of what you're absorbing, or be mindful of other people trying to manipulate you to get what they want. Okay, take really good care of yourselves, and I will be back soon with more information on November.